Hey everyone, we'll give others a few more minutes to join, but while we can wait, I can answer a few of the questions that were submitted during registration. So the first one, this user was interested in formats and connections to things like webhooks, and we have exciting news. We do finally have our webhooks UI, and so I can show you what that looks like. So if you navigate to settings in a document and scroll down to the bottom, you can manage your webhooks. And so nice handy UI, check it out. Let us know in the community all the fun things that you do with it. But that is now available to you. For those who don't want to use webhooks, but want to use something that's kind of already super user-friendly, we do have our integrator services still. I'm going to add that to the chat. And that's like Zapier, Pabbly Connect, Make.com, N8N, where they kind of do the same thing, but they have a nice little user-friendly format. But webhooks UI is available. Again, that's in the settings tab of your document. I know, that is very exciting. This is news to me too. It's brand new. So check it out. And again, post in the community if one, if you have questions, but two, share with us all the cool things you do with it. Let me show that community link. I'll send that as a handout. 1 second. Okay, I shared the Grist community forum link as a handout. I think the handout tab saves it. Okay, the next question was about incremental imports. They said that's intriguing, and as they format their data, it needs to still work with their data. Well, we're going to cover that in our webinar today, so hold tight on that. And then the third question was about more import questions. While importing, how do I merge the two together without losing data? They'd like to be able to see like or similar records side by side and decide which information from one record to bring into the other or to delete. But unfortunately, we don't have line by line skip options. You either skip the whole column or merge the whole column, and we'll get to see what that looks like again during the webinar. Okay, so I see more people have joined. So hello, everyone. Welcome to our May webinar. Today's the fourth and final webinar in our Working with Your Data series. So all of the previous webinars, both in this series and other series, can be found on our YouTube channel, and you'll find a recording of this webinar there as well in the near future. And as soon as it's made available, you'll actually get an email saying that it's available. Since you've registered for the webinar, you'll automatically get an email. Now, before we get started, I would like to remind everyone of our May competition. Let me share that link with you. This month, we are sponsoring a flashcard contest. You can build the best flashcard deck by using our flashcards template to share your expertise on any topic. So the flashcard contest is linked for you. Be sure to submit your entries by May 29th. Voting is open, I believe it's May 29th or May 30th through June 2nd, but that information is in the same link. The community will vote for the top 3 most mind-blowing flashcard decks, and then each of the 3 winners will receive a rare and highly sought-after Grist thermos. Get a close-up. It's one thermos to rule them all. It keeps hot things hot and cold things cold. Whether it's winter or summer where you're at, the Grist thermos is the best around. Nothing's gonna ever keep it down unless you want to keep the temperature of your liquids down, and it'll do just that. So, flashcard contest. Be sure to participate. And there's a poll. Let us know if you're going to participate. We haven't used the poll feature yet, so I wanted to give it a shot. Okay, so today we will walk through importing data. We'll cover how to use formula transformations in our imports and then how to complete incremental imports as well. Okay, so this is the example data set that we will be using today. The spreadsheet has multiple tabs here across the bottom for our credit card spending for each month of 2019. So let me jump back to my homepage here. Now in Grist, we can import our data in order to create a new document, but we can also import into an already existing document. And we'll look at both of those today. Now, when you have a spreadsheet with multiple tabs like this, it's best to create a new document and then import into the document versus coming to this home page and importing a document in order to create it. So let me show you how that works. Again, we're working with something that has multiple tabs. If I come to the home page, I have multiple import options. I can import from just a file on my computer, or I can import from Google Drive. And so we're going to start with importing from Google Drive, and we'll look at importing an Excel file later. They look exactly the same. So import from Google Drive. Need to sign in. Select the file in Google Drive. And there we go. It imports, and for each tab in that spreadsheet is going to create a separate table, since it's separate tables in that spreadsheet. Now that's not super handy. So that's why it's best to create a new document that's blank, and then we can import into it because we can have more control over how we import the data. Here it's going, when you do it again from that home page, it's just going to assume each tab needs to be a separate table in Grist. So I'm going to go back home and we'll create a new document. Again, this is just a blank document. Now we can do the same thing under Add New. Now we're going to import from Google Drive into this existing document. But now we're going to get this import pop-up that's going to let us select how we want to handle each bit of our data. Okay, so here we go. We have all of our tabs appearing as options here. And we can import, right now it's going to assume we want to import each into a new table, which is what it did when we imported from that home screen. But what we want to do is import it all into the same table. Here we have our January data. And we can choose to skip it. We can insert it into table 1, which is that blank table that has 3 columns when we created the document. You'll notice here that the preview shows just A, B, and C as the columns. It's importing into existing columns, and then you can map the columns by clicking those three dots. That's not what we want to do because we have so many columns. We want to just create a table with those. So now if I select new table, we see all the columns across the top. It's going to create all of those for us, which is going to save us a lot of time. Now, all of our other tables, we want to move into this same one. When you import, you should always think about how you want to set up your data. How many individual data sets are in your spreadsheet? For this example, it's a single data set. It's just credit card charges. One way to tell is to look at the columns in each sheet. Are they similar across all of your data? Here we have the exact same column: state, receipt, description, amount. It's all the same across each month. This shows that it's a single data set. And why is that? Grist spreadsheet database structure does best when the same type of information, such as credit card expenses, is in the same table. And as you'll see in a bit, it will help us to keep all expenses in the same table when it comes to analysis. So again, to start, we want to import January into its own table to create all those column headers. But we're going to skip the rest for now because we can come back and re-import those into that same table, but the column headers are already there. So I'll just skip our other months here. Now I'm zoomed way in to make it easier to see in the webinar, but if I scroll out, you would see all of them very easily and you'd be able to skip them really quickly. So I'll go ahead and import, again, just importing January. And there we go. Now we have January. We have all of the column headers ready to go. I can rename this table since we're going to have multiple months of data. We'll just rename this to American Express. And then we can go back to importing from our Google Drive, and we'll just import those sheets right into the same table. Okay, so now we can skip January. We've already got that data, but now we can add February to the American Express. And when you do link to an existing table, again, check your columns are mapping correctly. Because all of my column headers match exactly from table to table, I won't have to map anything. But let's say you have one of the common ones that we run into is like phone versus phone number. It won't recognize that's the same column because the headers are different. And if that comes up, let's say it just shows skip, it means it's not mapping anything. And you would just click the three dots and find it in the menu. And so again, that's only if your headers are not matching up between the spreadsheets you're importing. Typically they'll all match. Okay, so let's map the rest. Again, I know all of my column headers are mapping. Otherwise, I would recommend just double checking and scrolling through to make sure they're mapped. Okay, so now we have January already existed, so now we're importing February through December. We've mapped them all to the same table. We can go ahead and import. There we go. We got February, March, April, May. Now, typically when you have dates in your data set, you'll probably want to summarize by month, year. And it's easy to do this using a formula column, using this date that we already have. So we're going to go ahead and create a new column. If you right click on the header, you can insert column left or right. I'm just going to name this month. Now to start entering a formula, you just click the equals key and it will have the formula prompt for you. Now we are going to use Python's strftime method, which let me share a link to that. And that allows us to take a date, reformat it into a string, but it pulls specific elements that we want. So first we call what column has our value, which is the date column. And then dot, and then we call the method strftime. As you see, Grist will start suggesting bits of the formula for you. And then within our parentheses, we need to tell it the formatting we want to use. So we do have a cheat sheet. That has all the codes that you would want, depending on what data you want to pull out of the date. So we just want the month, and I personally prefer it as a full name. And so the code there is %, capital B. And then I want a 4-digit year. Here we see that down here, and that's %, capital Y. And I'll share this cheat sheet as well in the handout section. Okay, so now back to our document. We're going to do % capital B and % capital Y. And between, oh, one thing I forgot is it is a string method, and so we would surround this with quotations because it's a string. And then the codes are %B, %Y. You would want to use any spacing, or perhaps you would want just a dash between the two. Must include that within the quotations as well. Okay, so now I have the month and year pulled out from our date using our strftime method. And with that, we can easily summarize this data. So to create a summary table, you click this green Add New button, add widget to page, and we're going to summarize the American Express table, and we're going to group by month. So all the January 2019 transactions would be summarized together. All February would be summarized together because we're grouping by that month column. And there we go. Now I can see how many transactions in each month. The account, that's not really useful. What Grist does with summary tables, it'll find any numerical column and sum it, which not always useful. Account number summarized means nothing, but we can hide that. Here we have the expense amount, the amount, and these are already numeric, but what you can always do is change the format to currency. It's as easy as that. We imported our data, added this month column, able to summarize. Now this was particularly easy because none of our data was duplicated. But what if you were importing the same data set, but with new transactions added to the same table each month as the year goes on? So January, you log in, you download your transactions, import them into Grist. February comes along and you want to do the same thing, but January's data is already in there. So for example, let me show. Here we have all of our January transactions. So we downloaded this, imported it into Grist, and then February comes along. Well, now we have February in here, but we also have January in here. How do we handle that? Grist allows you to do incremental imports. So let's walk through that. Now, because these data sheets are only a single tab, we could import from the home screen. So add new, and this is a file on my computer. We'll import the document, find the file, and then open it. Again, just a single tab in the Excel file, so it imported it into a single table. And here we have all of our January transactions. I'll go ahead and rename this. And we will go ahead and add that month column again. So again, equals key to start entering your formula. Select the column that contains your date value, call the method, and then quotes because it's a string method, capital B, capital Y. Okay, so now we have our month column ready to calculate. So we have our January data. Now we want to import February. Add new. We're going to import from an existing file. Again, these are just files saved on my computer. Again, if you haven't noticed, it looks exactly the same as when we did it with Google Sheets, except you're searching for a file on your computer rather than searching for a file in Sheets, but it works the same. So now we want to import into our existing table. But remember, this file has January data as well. We don't want to import that. So what we can do is update existing records. So with that, you want to be able to match on specific fields. It's important to match on something that makes that record unique. Something that requires matching, or sometimes that requires matching on multiple fields. In this example, we could match on date, but here we see that there's multiple transactions on the 30th, and that could screw it up. It's already thinking that it needs to change these. If we add more to this, though, we can match on description. We can match on amount. And now we see that those errors are going away. You just need to find something that makes that record unique. Sometimes that means matching on multiple things. Let's say you're importing a list of people. You might want to match on something like email address or employee ID, as you can often run into issues matching on name if someone's name is listed differently on different spreadsheets. For example, if your employee's name is Jennifer and they're listed as Jen on one spreadsheet, Jenny on another, that won't match. And so you might run into duplicate entries. But if their employee ID is 8675309, then that ID will always match. So you can always match on that, and that's what makes it unique. So here we're going to match on date, description, amount, as that got rid of our errors. Looks good. And then we see that all of the February stuff is green, as it doesn't have anything to match on. We haven't imported February data. So we can confirm our columns are all mapped as well. And we can import. Now, if I scroll down, there is our February data. It automatically calculated our month column since it's just a formula column. So we can pull that information easily. And let's do it again. Import from file. We'll do this for March. Want to move it into our existing spreadsheet. And again, we want to update existing records, date, description, and amount. Looks good. Now we have March data. And then last but not least, we'll do our April data. Again, just April's green, so we know that everything looks good. and we can import. Cool. So now we have 4 months worth of data. This month column has automatically calculated. We can add a summary table. Just add widget to page. Summarize by month. And there we go. Now, as we import more data, if we had data for May, June, July, etc., as we would import it, this month column would automatically calculate and it would show up in our summary table. So you don't even have to do anything there. All you would have to do once a month, come in, import your file, find May, import that data, and everything else would update for you. One thing that people are often surprised about is that you can enter formulas into columns during import, allowing you to modify your data. Let's say you receive those expense sheets from multiple employees. You'd want to keep all of the data in the same table, but you would need to include a column that records that employee's name. And we can do that with our imports. It's very easy. So we're going to add a new column, employee. And then now we'll just import, again, same thing, into our existing table. But now we have an employee name. So here you see it's skipping because we don't have anything in our file that contains the employee's name. But we can just enter it as a string. So if our employee is John, we enter it in quotes. Quotes specifies that it's a string. You click enter and it's now going to fill in the employee column with that string, John. Now I can update existing records, but I can match on employee. I can match on date, description, and amount. The same things we were matching on before, but now we're also matching on employee. Because there's nothing in there yet for John, it will all import. So we can go ahead and import. He's at the bottom here. There's all of his transactions for January. And now we can still do the same thing where our February data contains January's as well. We can do the same thing, but match on John's name. So again, in the employee field, put John's name. Match on employee date, description, amount. And so now it will not import January because we already have existing data for John on those dates that match the description and amount. But it will import all of February. So just like before, except now we're just adding a name as well. And so now we have data for John for January and February. Now, note that this employee column could be a reference column, and that would still work. So if I have a separate table of employees, and this column is a reference column, now if I import, we'll import data for Deb. You'll see that the column in the import preview turns red. And that's because a reference column is looking for a record ID. And Deb is not a record ID. Deb is a name. Well, we can still import this. So we'll still match on date, description, amount, just as we were before. Nothing's changing. But now when we import, it will find that Deb is in the employees table. It will find that record and link it. And so if you see that red error when importing into a reference column, have no fear. As long as you have that connected and it's spelled the same way, as it is where it's referenced. So here I have Deb, employees table, I have Deb. If it was Deborah, it must be Deborah in the import so it can match. As long as that matches, it will find that link and create that reference. Just note that it does need to exist in the reference table first. So if I were to delete Linda and then go import Linda's records, it would then not match because she's not in there. But just make sure that you have the employee listed before you import them. So now that we have employees, we have monthly data, we can also summarize by employee. Again, to summarize, add new widget to page. You click this green summation icon and then group by whichever. And so we could do month and employee. We could select by month. So when we select a month up here, we can see our spending for each of our employees. Okay, so that is all on our importing. If you'd like to learn more about Grist in general, be sure to check out our YouTube channel, which you'll get a link to when this video is posted via email since you've registered for the webinar. Our help center, always great, full of helpful articles. And then we also have our community forum, which I had linked in the chat at the beginning, or I think it was a handout. But don't forget to submit an entry for a flashcard contest so you can win a Grist thermos. One of the submissions in the contest is actually about Grist. So if you want to learn more, check out this Grist flashcard set. And you can learn more. It's pretty fun. We were playing with it before. Oh, the flashcards? Yeah, we can do that. Let me see. Okay. True or false? Information you store in Grist is stuck there and cannot be used elsewhere. If you know the answer, put it in the chat. Correct. False. When you use the share button on the top of the toolbar, share, you can export your documents in Excel, CSV. You can download as a .grist file, which allows you to share it with other Grist users. If you use the Grist desktop app, you can open it there. Lots of cool stuff. Also, I just want to point out that there is a shuffle button on these flashcards, and there's a start over. Pretty cool features. Okay, next one. True or false? There is no way to see past changes made to a table in Grist. I think you answered that one really quickly. Yeah. False. By clicking on document history under the tools menu, let me expand it over here. So document history, and then you select the activity tab. Boop. You can see a detailed list of who made what changes and when. True or false? There's no way to interact with Grist documents on getgrist.com except by using the web interface. the history on the SQLite. I am not sure how. Anais, do you know if the history is just pulling from the SQLite table, how that works? It's a good question. Yeah, definitely ask that one in the forum, because our dev team can jump in and answer that, and they would know. So false. You can interact with documents many different ways. We do support the REST API. You can write your own software to interact with Grist. Lots of good stuff. True or false, with Grist access rules, you can restrict users' rights to various tables, but not rows or columns of a table. I feel like most, yeah, correct. Most people would know this. We do so much with access rules in our webinars. So with access rules, you can not only restrict a user's level of access to individual tables, but also specific rows and columns. Awesome. Yeah, this Grist flashcard set is superb. So definitely check it out. I think, let me add it as a handout. I think it might stay up longer. There, I shared that link again with you all. It is. So the flashcard widget is a custom widget. Let me. So to add a custom widget, you'd go add new, add widget to page, custom, select the data table, and then you would add to page. Now, once you're in there, in the creator panel, again, you can open that using this little vertical bar. Under the custom tab, we have this handy drop down of pre-made widgets, flashcards being one of them. You would have a column of questions and a column of answers that you would map, and then it would just be ready to go. It's as easy as that. So let me show you. We'll add a page with the table. So here we just have a column of questions, a column of answers, add new widget to page. We would want a custom widget using this data. And then now under custom, we find flashcards. It needs to be able to read the current table, so we can accept that. And then now we just map questions, questions, answers, answers, and then it's ready to go. Easy as that. And then to hide your actual table, click the three dot icon. You can delete the widget, which would remove it from the page. You can also collapse the widget, which just moves it into the top. You can also collapse a widget by dragging it and dropping it to the top. You can expand by clicking three dots and add to page, but you can also expand by just dragging and dropping. So the expand collapse is fantastic, but you can delete it and then you have a full page of just the flashcard. Yeah, flashcards can be about anything. Our initial flashcard template is just different languages. So if you want, you could certainly spruce up one of our existing ones. I did it with help from Google, so it might not be 100% accurate. If you've ever used Google Translate, it's only okay sometimes. Does not have to be Grist themed like this Grist quiz flashcard set. I think there was one someone submitted on marketing flashcards. So lots of cool stuff out there. If you're a history buff, you could do anything on history. You could do, if you have a favorite TV show, you could do it on your favorite TV show. But yes, the top 3 decks, it will be voted on, so be sure to check out the contest in the community. That's where people are sharing. If you want to submit yours, be sure to follow the format that Anais provided in the post. And then here, voting is May 29th through June 2nd. And you are welcome to submit multiple entries. So if you're just dying for a Grist thermos, this is your chance. Submit all the knowledge. I use my thermos every day too. It really is fantastic. And I put a straw in mine. So the thermos does have an origin story, courtesy of ChatGPT. So if you are looking for a quick read, that is also in the flashcard contest. Is it easy to clean? It is. So this top screws off. This one has just a little hole, but I can stick my whole hand in there. Oh, the straw, I bought the straw. I just stick them in the dishwasher. It does not come with a straw. I added that. I drink more water with a straw. But the lid does make it easy to draw or drink from. It is dishwasher safe, yes. I've never put mine in a dishwasher yet, but. Anais, do you use yours in the dishwasher? How's it hold up? It's Yeti, so I imagine it's perfectly safe. Perfect. She has done the dishwasher. It works great. Awesome. Any questions on importing, on flashcards, on Grist thermos? If not, you are, of course, are free to go, and we will see you next month. Thanks for joining us today, guys.